Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department. My name is Ann Baum, and with me, as always, is my co host, Chris Johnson. We have a wonderful guest today, Andrea Taylor, the co founder and CEO of Livsee. Andrea, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you, Anne and Chris. Thanks for having me.
So I know we've had a chance to talk a couple times, and so we're so happy to have you here and have you tell our listeners about kind of your background and LiveSee and all the neat things that you guys are doing over there. So will you go ahead? I know you and Chris were just talking about how you were both at AIM in 2010. So I know you have a long-standing history in the multifamily industry. Will you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Yeah, I have a joke now. I say I'm no longer quantifying. I just say it was a long time ago, far away place, and I'm still here. So but that is true. I started in multifamily around that time, and that was when Craigslist was top of mind. It was the number one lead source. Some of us are still believers. Some of us are afraid of the website now, but either way, it had its time in the sun. But after that, I switched to the owner operator side. So I worked for some of the larger groups. Recently, I was with Morgan Properties before that, Waterton Residential, and my role was always in technology, innovation, and how do we roll out these risk forward projects in fairly so risk averse environments. So if you're installing, 50,000, 100,000 smart locks, well, we have to make sure that they all connect, that they work, that we're getting an ROI on that investment. And so it's always kind of filling that gap. And then at the end of 2024, I kind of thought to myself, well, I'm seeing a couple of problems here that I think I can solve. And in all of those scenarios, I was kind of an entrepreneur. I was always figuring out something. And I thought, I'm actually an entrepreneur. So I thought, let's start Libsy. And there were two things I wanted to solve. One is that there was a lot of supply in multifamily. We built a lot of apartments, and that's across all asset classes. So you've got housing competing, you've got class A plus plus competing with brand new construction. So how can we maximize, our outreach? And the second thing is that we were concessing quite a bit. Part of that is because of, where rents landed over the last few years. They kind of, if you look at the news, they outpaced inflation 37% last couple of years. And so we're concessing. But in my world, concessing wasn't like a science. We get on these calls and we go, why are we at 92%? And then say, well, Chris, your sign wasn't good. It's your fault, or hey, you didn't plant flowers. And we're talking to the, maintenance or facilities. You kind of have this sort of talk, and maybe it's all of it, maybe it's none of it. But at the end, we would go, okay, let's do 1 month free. Right. And it would just be crickets. And you go, okay, who is going to find out? Well, we'll print off a sign at fast signs, hope somebody drives by. Sometimes you just press the button, hope for the best. So meet Livsey. We are agentic AI for multifamily, meaning that we are following up and reaching out to renters constantly. So we don't let, as we say, dead leads. And I kind of joke that we need new words. Like, we never let the dead leads die. Don't we resuscitate them because it could just be something as, well, would you like to move in or would you like to tour? No, I'm moving. And I'm not going to move for 6 months. Great. And then we reach back out. So that's part of it. And the second part is the math and the data behind concessing or making rent specials or price changes or even capex recommendations on what these renters will actually pay a premium for, if we're able to make them the right offering. So it's kind of pricing meets marketing twofold. Um, Went out March 25, raised capital, and that because we've got to integrate, and that's not cheap, but it is necessary. And I built the product, launched it last June at NAA, which we're coming
Wow.
up on a 1 year anniversary of launch, and been going strong ever since. So that's the story.
So wonderful. I love hearing that's like my favorite things. I love hearing founder stories because I feel like they're always very similar. It's like saw a problem and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can find this space in the market and solve for challenges because that's funny. You all didn't do this. Okay, let's do 1 month free. And it's like there has to be a better way. There has to be a science around this.
Right, right. And that's part of what my team and I bring to the table. When you break down a unit in a building, right? I mean, the ones that have the ocean view, you might be okay. Let's talk about the studio apartment. in the lower level. For one company I worked for a while, we weren't adding dishwashers in these micro studio apartments because we thought, "Oh, people will never be home. They'll never cook at home." This is a couple of years pre-pandemic, right? And we thought, "Okay, well, people are gonna be out and about every night, like, they're not gonna need this." Well, that's a great opportunity to offer a special, if the apartment didn't have that sort of mandatory appliance, in today's market. So all kinds of, all kinds of nuances and differences, but we're really well versed in what makes up the rent in a unit, in a building, in a market, and now we've got the data behind that from these conversations to really, even back it up further.
That's really cool. I'm thinking about that. I didn't have a dishwasher growing up, and that was the worst, by the way. My parents should have paid me rent for living there and washing
Well,
the
I didn't have one in
dishes
my first
every
apartment in
night.
Chicago, but we're talking these are, and if I'm spending in the luxury apartment, I want, yeah, 2 dishwashers.
I want to touch in on something because because we are cut from the same cloth and are from the old, call it the old school these days. I never thought a lead was lost. I have never believed that. I email lost leads all the time. It's part of my marketing program. I tell my teams I'm doing it, and if it reopens it, it reopens it. But you just never know where somebody is in the process. And I will say I use eBlasts a lot, and they're effective and they're free and it still works for anybody out there. Like, it works. It drives traffic every time I send one, we get traffic. And so I like the fact that you have built a system that actually truly does follow up on these lost leads. We've been talking about this, I feel like, for almost as long as I've been doing this. I started in 2006, my journey in multifamily. And I feel like we've always tried to have a program. Well, in 9 months, let's reach back out because we know they're going to be looking again. Or, the guest card says X, but we didn't have the technology that we do today to actually grab the data and go through with it. It used to be a manual process. And so that you would have the teams that rose to the cream of the crop teams, the all stars, they would do it, but most people aren't going to go do that manual piece. What have you seen? I mean, have you gotten any data on what those leads are actually doing and how they're converting? Are your clients surprised when they see how many people that they reached out to 6 months ago actually still would lease 6 months plus later?
Yeah, I think, a couple of things. One is that I think it definitely works to go back to people that were previously interested. And I think what's happening in our sort of macro environment is that we're not always competing with renters that are living in another building and maybe they moved across the street and we follow up in 9 months and go, "Hey, is your lease expiring? Come back." We do that too, but we're not always competing with the other apartment. Sometimes we're looking for that first time renter. Gen Z is staying home like in their families' houses longer than previous generations, right? Which is actually pushing a lot of things back in terms of rents in the one bedrooms apartments, the two bedrooms. Then you've got the mortgage people and the brokers, the home people going, "Hey, get more renters so they can grow out of these apartments and move into homes." People are getting married later, having kids later. It's a whole macro economic situation. So we're finding out as we're reaching out to people what's really going to move the needle for them and even what kinds of keywords move the needle. So we had a group where we have a property located nearby museums in Miami. And every time that the word culture came up in our conversation, because remember, this is a very customized, this is a whole conversation that they have with us where they say, "Can I bring my dog?" Well, it's a Pomeranian, well, is it a restricted breed? And we'll find out. But we're having these conversations. What we're finding out is when we mention culture, or when we mention that the gym is premium, better than, your Equinox membership, they're 72% more likely to tour. Now, when we give that data to the site team and they repeat that and they say, "Look at these great restaurants and great food and stuff that you can walk to." So it's really understanding that demographic of who is leasing with you. Now, yes, reaching out and the email blast and all of that work. And then what we're doing is because what we do is we text and email. We get all the leads from the integrations. And then based on their preferred method of contact, we text and email. But the next thing we do is take them back to a customized chat with a memory, right? That understands, okay, you were looking for that two bedroom, but the one we had didn't have a balcony. Now it's available. "Oh, you're looking in Dallas. Okay, let's cross market. We'll offer you something in our portfolio in Dallas," right? It's very specialized to what they have. But even bigger than that, what we're also seeing work is we have a group on the platform and they've got a property and a suburban property. And first of all, the units of two bedrooms and three bedrooms it was 88% of the conversations were about 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. So we said, hey, you might want to do a special to get on your 1 bedrooms. But the second most interesting thing we found out was that 92% of the conversations that were high intent, because we can track intent. We know where the most meaningful leads come from down to lead source, even if it's in contrast to volume. But it's that pet policy came up in 92% of the high intent conversations. So we said to the owner of the company, we said, you might want to build a dog park. It's like, yeah, I should if I want to keep these renters another year because they're families and they have pets, and then we can get into those details. So those are some of the things that we've seen working. And last thing I'll say is just sheer volume. We text 1,000 old leads, and we just did this, and 89 renters chatted with us. That means 91% of them were not interested. That's the use case for AI. Let AI call 900 people who don't want an
Right, who
apartment
aren't
anymore.
interested.
And let's give you the 100 people, whether through tour or through another conversation, to really work those high intent leads.
I think that's interesting. And I think we're hearing a lot, like data that's being gathered within platforms. I think there's magic then in reporting it back to ownership, to asset management, to managers to make decisions about the asset as well. You said like 91% high intent. Hey, you should probably build a dog park. I think that that's kind of an undervalued value of having all of this data at your fingertips and having a system where people can have customized high intent conversations. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
I love how AI is doing this because before we had to be so broad and try to market to everybody. And we still are. It's anybody that wants to live there, obviously, but we know what people for these communities actually are looking for. And I think it helps us hone in to at least drive the message. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is we want our prospects to get to the property and not feel lied to, based on the text and the photos and everything else that you presented online, because you have two chances to make a first impression, the one online and then digitally, and then one when they actually get there. And it sounds like with your data there, you're actually able to do that and you put that into practice where you know what people actually care about when they get there. And it's not all the people may not care about a pool. They may just care about the pet policy. And I'm just using that as an example, or what you have to offer for your pets, which is super valuable in how you craft how you're advertising or how you're even marketing yourself to your competitors.
Right. I think part of it is the AI is doing a lot. Like it's agentic AI. So what it means is our purpose is not just to convert a renter or convert a prospect to a tour. That is what we want to do also, but our main goal is to figure out why. So the way Livsee asks questions or responds to questions is a little bit different it's very different than a standard LLM that just says, would you like a tour? No, goodbye. Are you still there? What we do is say, well, why not? Right. Well, and it is really things down to, I didn't like the landscaping. It is, or I'm not moving yet, or, you don't have an employer discount with the local place. Well, when that happens 100 times, Anne, we're going to come back to you and say, have you considered this employer discount with, the largest group or company in town?
Yeah.
But we'll do you one better. Then we go back out to all of those leads and say, hey, we've got a brand new employer. You have to be able to recycle it. But what I was going to say is that we're from the industry. So it's me, my CTO, he was at RealPage for a long time working on YieldStar and in their M&A department. And so we're able to translate this data in a really sort of intuitive way because we lived it.
Yeah.
So we know where you take just a standard LLM, they'll go, pet policy comes up a lot. But what we're really translating that into is retention. Your residents have dogs. They love dogs. Maybe you should have doggy yoga. Let's bring it back. You know what I mean? Those types. And then we'll go back and promote it. Whatever that is, right? It's this extra step to move that up because we're moving occupancy 2 to 5 points for our partners. So when you think about that, if we're bringing you 2 leases a month that you're not otherwise getting for whatever reason, it's just because we're talking in the middle of the night we talk a lot at like 2:00 in the morning. One of our customers, they go, are these timestamps correct? Yeah, this is when people are shopping. They're Netflix and apartment shopping.
Yep.
To find their next place. We're really able to translate it.
That's interesting. Is 2 a.m. actually the most popular? What is the most popular time?
It's really 2 p.m. So it's
Yeah.
an after lunch rush, and then it's like 11 PM. People wanna know a lot about the building. We had one that got into the nearby trails. He just wanted to talk, you know? Where can I hike? And we were able to tell him what was,
Can I ask a question on that? Because I'm trying to hone in on that too. I mean, as much as I can, how much do people care about? I mean, they obviously care about location. We know that, and that's not really the question. But how much do they really do care about how close you are to certain coffee or restaurants in the area? How much do they already know, and how much are they trying to figure out? AI is just so much smarter than it was even 3, 4 years ago. So it's pretty incredible what we can do with it. And it's interesting to hear these stories about somebody who cared about the trails. What other things do people actually care about that we should be promoting?
And now, a message from our sponsor, Flamingo. Every multifamily marketer wants to know what the next big thing will be. At the apartment department, we think that resident retention is the next big thing, which is why we're excited to have Flamingo as our podcast sponsor. Flamingo, founded by Jude Chai, is an all-in-one resident retention platform used by some of the top-performing communities in the country. And here's a fun little secret. If you see a community with 300 plus online reviews and 65% plus retention, there's a good chance they're using Flamingo. From automated renewal management and resident events to amenity bookings and even an AI concierge, Flamingo brings everything together in one sleek app that residents actually use. Learn more at getflamingo.com.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in our AI, we tune it 3 ways. One is through the ILS integration, or whatever you're sending the ILSs we'll get to. So we understand photos, floor plans, and amenities. We have an onboarding form where we ask really specific questions that we don't get from the integration, but we know renters ask, like, who's your internet provider? Right?
Yeah.
And the third thing we do is this Google API where they can map in our conversation. So think of a text to chat takeover if you've ever chatted with an airline about something that's Livsey. And they will say in this chat, calculate my commute to work. Beep, beep, 20 minutes. Okay, give me a local, can I walk to a coffee shop? And depending on the area, right? It really is so community specific what people ask about and what they're interested in. We had a group in Indiana, go Midwest, and the renters were asking about furnished housing. And it made sense. It wasn't a university property, but it was adjacent, it was nearby. And the marketing team said, I'm so glad that we have this data because we're going right to operations and we're getting a budget for furnished
Yeah.
couches and short-term housing and housewares and all. And people ask, like, do you have plates? Like that was like, no, we don't. Or we have housewares, we learn all of that. So it really is, I think people like the convenience of being able to just get everything in one fell swoop in that conversation when they're watching TV or whatever. But the second piece of it is that it varies so much that's why we do this property specific reporting on tone and what they're asking about and what are the conversions? Because you could have 1,000 conversations, but only 200 of them were in depth.
Yeah.
And then we find out, did they actually convert? And through our integrations, we know when people apply, when they lease, we know if they are approved or not approved. That's all of that. So it's a lot of back and forth data, but that's what we see in terms of what the AI is finding out. It's very unique, or it is unique to the property.
That's so interesting. And then is your team monitoring conversations to see where they're getting stuck and then reaching out to the site teams to get that information? Or are the site teams monitoring it? Or is it like a team effort?
Yeah, the way we do it, we try to onboard pretty as accurately as possible. So we have this onboarding form where we get pretty deep into it.
Yeah.
But for the first 4 weeks, we meet every week and we'll go over these conversations and we iterate. And so we had a group that we onboarded, and at first, the site team, they're very involved. And she says, "This is like just like training a human, so much work, kind of thing."
Yeah.
And we said, "Okay, but we're going to stay with you. We're not gonna quit." And we're always gonna remember. So you just tell us one time, right? And then by the end of it, we were telling people, okay, this apartment faces south, this apartment, because there had a lot of people, maybe they worked evenings or something and they didn't want sunlight. And so we learned the direction, we learned the map of the property. We had another example where we had a lot of questions about the internet, and it went really in depth. So we talked to the site team, we learned their whole internet provider. We think about uploading the brochure to AI,
Yeah.
and we learned everything, okay? But then the site team says, you know what? I have noticed a lot of big chairs moving in the freight elevator because he said, why are we getting so many internet questions? Well, the big gaming chairs that have the cup holders and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's so she goes, I see a lot of those. And we go, we're gonna. It's a property full of gamers.
Hmm.
Who knew, right? We kind of put two and two together. Well, that's going to inform their marketing. I mean, forget a concession. They're going to do bulk internet and get a premium for that, which is actually going to be a great deal for the renter. It's all that. It's one thing to notice it or have it in the data, but what we can do as industry experts or veterans is come back and say that actually translates into a bulk contract. And this is
Right.
about what premium you can get for that, right? And then we'll go back and we'll upsell it for you at renewal. We'll upsell it, at least. So it's a support for those business decisions.
I mean, that's just as valuable as the 2 to 3 point or 2 to 5 point increase in occupancy that you're talking about. If it's if the team that you're working with is willing to embrace it and willing then to tell that story and say, "Hey, how can we improve the asset based on who we have living here?" So I think I don't know. I think that's really I think it's just really fascinating. And I love your point too about how you said like, yeah, when we go back to past leads, we're not necessarily, say you reach out to 1,000, maybe you're only getting 89 conversations, but again, that's time saved. Like that was a really good point too. So it's not necessarily about first of all, you have recovered 89 conversations, and second, a person didn't have to do it. I'm finding sometimes that there's kind of a disconnect. Why this is interesting to me too, reaching back out to like older leads, is there's sometimes a disconnect between what we're showing from an availability standpoint on our websites when so if people are looking 6 months out, websites typically don't accommodate that time frame, right? They accommodate a 60-day or maybe a 90-day window, and that's probably a different discussion for a different day, but I like the fact knowing that, well, there's a solution in place for when the website is ready to show availability, when the site team is ready to talk about availability, they don't have to remember, "Oh, I need to reach out to this person now." It's happening
It's
automatically.
happening. We get it from the integration. And when someone says, I'm looking in 6 months, we say, can we reach out in three? Because
Yeah.
we know when availability, 90 days out, we send out those lease renewals. See, that's the benefit of like having it being an insider or whatever I don't know what to call myself. As someone who was inside of the property management system
Yeah,
for
absolutely,
12
yeah.
years looking back and forth at that. And so that's part of why I raised capital because it's capital intensive in a way to build it before you have customers. But we wanted to build it in a way where groups can just say yes, right? If they are on a platform like Yardi or RealPage where we're integrated, that they can say, okay, great, you're going to pick up my pricing and availability, even going for renewals, because we can understand the data from if we lease them or help them lease, still enjoying that balcony. Hey, we got a brand new dog park. Bring
Yep.
your Pomeranian, or whatever it is to the so we had like a few Pomeranian questions recently, but that is often a restricted breed. It was kind of sad. Like,
Really? I
These
didn't know
little
that.
fluffies,
it's
they're
so
mean, right?
nice.
Aren't they kinda mean?
Because they're yappy.
Yeah. Oh, maybe, and yeah, they're so cute though. So
Yeah,
that's
but we can see.
interesting.
Yeah, would you like to renew your lease? And we can inform renewal special like, if you renew in the next 30 days, we're gonna give you this pricing because we have an entire pricing component based on the amenities and, the unit, view, where it's located. So it's like pricing plus data, plus some industry, n thinking.
Yeah, it's like not just data, it's like how do you apply it in real time? Like how do you translate it into actionable items? And so then Livesey also communicates with current residents. Jude at Flamingo was talking about how that's a huge missed opportunity is that we as an industry are not communicating with our residents enough.
Yeah, we used to not do that. We used to go, "No news is good it's good news." And we still, yeah, it depends on how you wanna support it, but we're built to we have the data already from the conversation, so we know we have memory, we know a little bit about the renter, and they've consented to all of that too, and we're
Yeah.
sensitive about their data, but, if they move in, we'll do, "Hey, congrats on your new apartment. Anything we can help you with?" That's an opportunity to offer different services that you might have or things. Do you need renter's insurance? Things you need. We'll do a check-in. And some groups want to do that, some groups don't, but we'll do a check-in at 6 months. Everything okay? Yes, no. And that's the opportunity when you maybe you have a silent renter that's not that something's wrong, but they don't want to say anything, and you give them that opportunity and you can go fix it. We'll get that data back. And then again, we go for a renewal as well. And but it's not a cold renewal. It's warm. Are you still
Right.
enjoying this? You still like living here? Do you enjoying your employer discount? You have another year in your MBA for the student discount. Livesey has a bit of a personality too. Not like mine. It tone matches. But we had a group where I know it's like you would think, but it was a high rise. And they said, well, the renter prospect, they go, do the windows open? And Lucy's like, what? But actually in high rises, the windows don't always open. So she's so excited. Yep, you get great ventilation. Come check it out on your tour.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just those little things that really move the needle. Not yes, you can open the window. It was a come see it, click here, tour, book it this day. And after that, we send out calendar invitations, which everybody should do that because we see an uptick in people actually showing up for their tour because they added it to their Google Calendar, their Outlook. Right. So this is a
Mm.
couple little things that we do that kind of move the needle a little bit. But yeah.
Well, and I feel like a question like that, like a very specific question, a lot of times you might see like, I do not have information. Please contact the office. And that just kills no one's calling the office to be like, do your windows open? Like they're just not. And so, I think what you're saying, like that training period and then the 4 weeks that you're spending time reviewing conversations together, I mean, that is going to move the needle because you might only see that question once. But if the system's able to answer it, then you're saving that conversation. So it's totally worth it. I think that was a mistake back in the day of when we were first all getting used to like these, leasing enablement and conversation tools. It was like, well, 80% of it is going to be about availability anyway, so we don't have to give, the all of the other details. And I think we're now seeing, that was kind of the beginning thinking, and now we're really seeing like, no, you have to have all the information and have intimate knowledge of the building in order to have it be a useful tool. So
I'd add one thing to that. And I think you also have to say it. You have to use the right
words.
words. Yeah, I just think or say it in a way that translates. I'm gonna say the
Yeah.
right words, but you've got to be able to communicate it and quickly because people they've got short attention spans, they're doing a lot of different things. But even being able to say things like, "Oh, the gym is," because we'll do some tone matching depending on the group that we're working with, if they allow that. And, somebody's like, I need a gym. I got to work on my fitness, and Lindsay will say something like, we got you. This gym is amazing.
Yeah.
Cancer membership. And then Lindsay can actually show up pictures of just the gym. It's not here, scroll through 20 pictures. Like, this is the workout facility. This is the treadmill, it can get pretty in detail with that. And sometimes that's all they want to see. Can I bring can I bring my dog? Do you have treadmills? Do you have internet? Okay, I'll tour. Those are the things I care about. And then you'll really be able to find that out. And it can also elevate and inform other marketing. If we know that people love the trails, and this is a true conversation we had, let's market that. Let's
Yeah.
get that on the website. Let's get a picture because I think it's in like a kind of a suburban, not very walkable place, and people like to stroll after work or whatever. Well, have pictures of it. Have it in your collateral. Talk about it on the tour. Point to it from that type of thing, and see what kind of traction you get.
Yep.
Yeah, really smart. So AI has come a long way. What do you think the next iterations are going to be? Is it going to be the tone matching? I love that, by the way. I wish more of our AI was doing that and could understand how it should respond to the person that it's talking to. Obviously, that's a much harder thing to do. But what else is AI going to help us with in our industry? I know it's going to do a lot for others, but what do you see in multifamily?
I see some balance coming. AI, people ask me because I'm raising money. They go, well, how is that defensible? And anybody can build AI and all these things. But, what I really say is we use AI in a very thoughtful, strategic way, but we're really about pricing and CapEx and repricing and enrichment and really kind of quantifying all of this information and applying it to multifamily. And, I was recently at the South by Southwest conference, and it was the founder of Madison Reed. They do hair coloring. And somebody said, oh, AI is going to take over. And, we're not gonna the cosmetologists are they're not gonna have jobs anymore. And what she said was, actually, they're getting busier because AI is they're using pictures to match your exact hair color to figure out the exact shade of what they need to apply. But nobody wants a robot to color their hair. You know what I mean? So, and I think about that the same way for multifamily is I think we're going to get more efficient. I think I think it's going to make it more competitive. But I think we're also going to need to still be a people business. So, like I said earlier in the call, my case for AI is to call, the 900 people that are, not so interested, but give the 100 that are back to the property and help cultivate that kind of supplement. So I think we'll find more gaps to fill
Mm.
with AI, but I still think we'll have to be a people-centric business. And what I tell people is at a okay, so Livsey, we integrate because when I was rolling out technology, the last thing we wanted was another portal of the 30 portals that we have open, right? So I built it to use it as much or as little as the site team chooses to use it. Um, but really the goal is with that is to bring it to the property in a way that they can use it, use it to inform the tours, use it to inform the operations, right? As much or as little as they can just from a technical perspective. But what I also tell investors is, you don't know what's happening at these properties. People are busy, okay? Things happen. A repair person shows up, a conflict happens. I mean, I have a lot of empathy for what goes on at the property. So it's not about, but you still can't replace, that's not about replacing that. It's somebody's home. It's just about supplementing. I have a question for you guys though on AI. So when you think about the future of AI, I see a lot, in the chat, the text, texting and emailing people, bringing them back to the chat, having really meaningful conversations. But curious on your thoughts on voice AI, people picking up and talking to, because my thing is I'll say people who call still want to call and talk to a person. And then we're talking at 2:00 in the morning about the, the people who don't want to call. But curious on your thoughts on what you think in the voice AI space.
I I will be honest, I have not delved into like, I have not looked into it enough other than I think the idea of voice AI is neat, but I haven't tested out enough voice AIs to say like, "Oh, they're good or they bad or they sound like a real person," or whatever the case, but I I I think it makes sense to have AI answer a phone if it's trained like we're talking about, just like it would chat with someone or email with someone, but in terms of where the technology is and is it ready and all the things, I have no insight into that. Chris, have you looked into voice
Yes.
AI? Cool.
I it's gotten better, and I sound like a broken record on this pod. If you take it from 3 years ago when it first 3 to 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, when it first started getting out there, you could really tell. I think people understand that they may be talking to AI because I think we're promoting it that way. I think it's better. We still have a long way to go in voice, in my opinion. But you kind of think about interactions that you have in your everyday life, throw out multifamily, which I try to do every once in a while because we're kind of a different fun, but different industry. Anyway, people are used to talking to AI, airlines, banks, I don't know, credit cards. They've been doing this for 30 years. I mean, we're like so far behind. They've had the robot in some form for as long as I remember having a bank account. And so I do think people are used to that because of other industry. I do wish that we could get in all industries a little bit cleaner on the voice AI because I think it would be really cool. And once it integrates with our devices better, then I think we've really unlocked a Pandora's box. I'm all for technology and moving the needle. So I want it to get better personally because I think make my life easier. But going back to your point, I do think our industry is still people focused. And I agree with you. I think sometimes people do want to talk to a person. And I know a lot of people don't do this, but when we set up our AI, we set it up so that it tries to ring to a person first. Of course, if it doesn't, I'd like to at least have the AI give them a shot to try to answer it. But certainly after hours, I like it. So that was a long-winded answer on yes, let's do it. Let's make it better though.
Yeah, I think so. I think at least my experience with it, and we don't have a voice AI. We're focused on the chat piece of it, and then we're also a chat bot on the website, and we kind of representing that voice. I always found it to be slow, and maybe it's me.
It
Just
is
tell
slow. I agree.
So we've been asked if that's on the roadmap, and that's something that, we do customer listening, and, we'll consider that. But yeah, so far we're really focused on the chat bot and then the lead follow-ups.
But see, I agree. I do think it's slow, and that's kind of my point. Like, it's gotten better. Before, it could barely answer questions and it was super slow. Now there's still a delay, at least in the ones that I've tested and used, but it has gotten better and the answers are better and you can interrupt and do some stuff that you couldn't do before,
Mm.
which is more natural conversation anyway. But I think it would be, if you could figure out a way to unlock it to be seamless like a person, which is scary for some, but I think it's kind of cool. And announcing that it's AI, I think we do a good job doing that, at least in our industry. I think you've really unlocked it, but it's also with the devices. Like, can you imagine being able to do that through an app or through Google or Apple or whatever platform you use at home, just on your actual device or Alexa, whatever you're using, and actually having a conversation that way? Back in the day, you already opened up payments through that. I thought that was such a breakthrough. But then I thought, how many people are actually saying you already go make my rent payment? It probably gets done, but not as much as maybe they thought. And so my point is, if you could make it more seamless, I think people would use it just on everything.
Yeah, use the voice AI. Yeah,
All of
when
it.
you said that, it reminded me of, when we were doing smart locks on these apartments. What if somebody says, "Alexa, like, open up all the locks?" Like, is that gonna work? And it
I
was
feel like
just
that's
something
like
we
the
had.
number one question. What if someone accidentally says?
Yeah, but that was actually a legitimate concern if it's, of that. So, yeah, but in terms of voice AI, yeah, definitely something to explore. I think we're all looking for, I think the technology, like you said earlier in the call, we've used it in the last 3 years, I would say in the last 6 months, the things that we can do now, in terms of automation and, even in development. I mean, we're a tech company and we need less developers
Yeah.
because of what we're able to leverage using AI in the product. And I'm excited for it because I think multifamily, everyone's, we get a bad rap. Oh, multifamily, antiquated, multifamily needs
I
to
just
catch
said
up.
it. We
Right.
do.
Just say, yeah.
Because
Y-
I think we're doing a better job. Don't get me wrong. I just think sometimes we're slow on stuff.
What I would add to that, it was people say is, it would just go on ChatGPT and find an apartment, right? And what I say is, but they're not integrated with your property management system, right? That sort of
Yeah.
thing. And that's, and I think with multifamily, when people say, okay, we're antiquated, we don't know, or we're not moving fast enough. Well, all of our data are in these very big systems. And we rely on them in a lot of different ways. And it's not so much it's not a complaint. It's just it's an observation. It's a
Yeah.
necessity. I mean, this is how we manage our data. And I think it's, when you compare us to things like retail, if you were to buy a lipstick or something, MAC Cosmetics knows the 5 different touch points it took for that person to walk into the store and buy that lipstick. And we don't know why people are walking to like the front door of the property and how we got there, or why they walked in and why they didn't go with us. And so I think that's a great opportunity for AI to fill some of those gaps
Mm.
and find out, okay, well, how did you hear about us and where did this come from and where are those high intent leads from? Because you could have ILS 1 giving you a ton of leads, but ILS 2 gives you less leads, but more high intent leads, and they're converting. And ILS 3 gives you the least amount of leads and the most price sensitive leads, right? And so it's a way to fill the gap. And we're moving more into, when you think about like product development, we're doing lead nurture, but we're going to move into lead gen, because now we know where, if we know where these leads are coming from and what they'll pay for and how much we need to, renters right now are expecting concessions. That's kind of
Yep.
like a given. But if we know what concession will move them, or if we know what they'll pay a premium for, I mean, that's going to inform marketing. That's really going to enhance where we put these dollars, right? To really get us returns on these types of things. And so that's where I see us going. But I think it's just kind of a fact of the matter is, when we look at technology around us, there's groups like mine and there's other groups that are able to leverage their knowledge base and understand these property management systems. But, if you're brand new and, we had a, and it's just like, hey, why can't you guys just do this? Because it's locked inside of a box, inside of a platform that has a floppy disk.
Yeah.
I
Well, now I remember what I was going to say.
Okay,
As
good.
much as I love I do have concerns that we are treating it almost like when Google first came out and you would Google something and just take it as is and not really give it some thought. And I think AI, we're starting to run into that because it's not being checked. And I think for our industry, even when we're communicating or whatever, we're kind of just taking it at its face value. And I think we need to just check that. I mean, most of the time it is correct, but we do need to have some checks and balances in place for it, especially as we continue to use the technology. whether it's her finding an apartment or comparing cars or booking flights, whatever it may be.
I agree. When I use AI, but out of the box AI, it's wrong all the time. And I'll go, wait, and I'll check it and go, oh, sorry about that. I misspoke. I overstated it, And so what I say is that Livesey, we're not research AI. We're not here to do your history paper, but we will learn every single thing about this apartment and the renters and the prospects and really, so we're in a kind of a silo, integrated silo, to be able to share that data. So yeah, definitely agree.
You bring up a good point with the floppy disk and old technology. How are we going to get better data from our partners? When is our industry actually going to open this up and not make it so hard for the data to flow so we can see the touch points, like actually see them without so much cloudiness? I mean, even the best attribution is cloudy, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was coming up with Livsey, one of our partners on the PMS side, he goes, "Oh, we have that. We have the reason renters didn't rent report." Right. And we're all shaking our heads for those listening on audio. And so I said, pull up the report. And I said, yeah, that's empty because no one is going to, if you're a leasing agent and you are incentivized to tour and lease apartments, it's not top of mind to sit down and go, yeah, John Smith didn't rent today because he didn't, what are
Right.
I won't even want them spending time doing that.
And how would you even know? Half the time, people aren't even giving you how do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if you tour with someone and you're like, "Yeah, they're definitely gonna apply," and then you reach out to them, they're probably not getting back to you if they're not even gonna apply. They're not gonna write back and be like, "Sorry, I'm not gonna apply because your clubhouse was dirty." They're just not gonna write back to you.
Well, I'll do even better and say sometimes we follow up on a tour if they haven't converted. We'll follow up and
Yeah,
say, okay, hey Ann, how was your tour? And
yeah,
we don't get everybody doesn't respond, but some people do. And
yeah.
sometimes they say, oh yeah, I forgot. I'll apply right now. And sometimes they say things like that, like it was a bad tour. I didn't like it. I didn't like this or that about the property. But what's interesting about that is that people will tell AI things that they won't tell you. They're gonna say, yeah, I loved it. You're so nice. Bye. Like for AI, they don't care. They're like, "Oh,
Right.
let me tell you, like this was this or bad or whatever." And so it's just another, use case where they can
So
really
a more accurate why did not move report that is actually based on transparent, useful information instead of
right.
a leasing agent just filling out like
Well, we're
they said
adding
it
to
was too
it, right?
expensive or whatever.
Yeah, well, we're providing something, and I think we'll get better over time at iterating and figuring out how to kind of extract that information. But Chris, I mean, I think that's a great question. I was recently in a meeting with other tech founders, and they asked the same thing, and I don't have an answer. My only thought was I just sort of prepared for it. Like I built my product with those sort of
Mm.
with the landscape in mind, knowing what it was gonna cost, knowing how long it was going to take and all of that. I just sort of accepted it. But what I told them was, it's not just, on the startup side where it's like, "Oh, now I can't build this." When I was on the owner operator side, I'd go, "Why can't I get this report?"
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Like, why can't I find it in this view? Where is it? And so it's not, I think I said something like the grass is brown on, on both sides, when it comes to that. But I think that's a great question, Chris. I don't know. What do you think? What can we do?
I want to say AI, the technology is coming where it's going to be able to untangle it for us somehow. And I don't care how many touch points we have, but I want to know what those touch points are. And I think as an industry, we should work hard, almost like the pricing and transparency, where people got together and said, here's what we think the standard should be, and everybody can follow the standard. I'm talking for those, that have to do this in Boston and or Massachusetts and some other places on the East Coast that may hit us somewhere else around the country, some of us around the country later, but they tried. And I wish that our partners would want to do the same. And I know why they've held the data for so long. Obviously, they want you to use you, and if you release everything, it gets all muddied. But I think as an industry moving forward, just with the technology changing and for the betterment of the prospects, since we're all in this together, I think it would be better if we can serve them. Because not every prospect's going to use apartments.com, not every prospect's going to use apartment list, not every prospect's going to use Zillow. Some of them will use all three, and some of them will use one and not the other. And some might really just be a drive-by. But I'd like to untangle it so that we could get a better understanding. I think it's better for everybody. I mean, I don't look at our comps as true comps, believe it or not. We're all trying to lease. I really do want that. I know this is sunshines and rainbows, and that's who I am in marketing, but like I want that renter to find that the housing that works best for them at the time. That's the truth. And if it's not at my property, then fine. So be it at our comps, but at least give us the opportunity to know why
Like,
and
go be
what we're.
happy. Go be happy over there if they
That's right.
have.
You can't be everything to everyone, right? Like that's
No,
the
you
truth.
can't.
What data do you want all like what I'm having a hard time. What data do you want to like all live in one place that it feels like can't be brought together right now? I know that's a broad question, but I'm
Yeah,
having
I feel like, well, because I think, I don't know. I don't want to I'm not techie. Okay. I mean, I'm techie enough to get into trouble, but I'm not techie enough to do it. But we obviously we all use cookies and UTMs and everything else to try to track all of this stuff. But it does get lost. And I do think,
yeah.
I think we're less of a funnel and we're more of a circle. It's not like a straight line, like our prospects bounce around and they have so much data at their fingertips now to be able to make a decision that they didn't have. I know I keep saying 3 to 5 years ago, but to me, it's really been the tipping point, maybe starting with COVID, that I just wish, Anne, that we could really, I mean, you can't get everything out of Google Analytics. You can't get everything out of your vendor partners. And when you try to pull it together, I know we've tried, it just seems like the data gets lost or there's broken links. I'm just trying to figure out, how do we unbreak it? Like, why can't Google just get it all, for example, if that's what it is? Why can't analytics just pick it up and give it to us easily?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Because
that
we can't, let me just finish. I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
because we
sorry.
don't track it all the way through, because Yardi isn't going to say, okay, now we have a new pop-up or real page or whoever you're Intrada, it doesn't matter. But when you go to the apply now, they're not saying, okay, now you can enter our system and see that this person definitely came, clicked on apply now, filled out the application and went. Like, it's on us to manually go back and do it at times, or at least figure out a way to do it. It's not intuitive because things break and you have a different window and you have a different workflow now. And I just, like, if it's Google, fine. But I'm just asking, maybe somewhere out there, we could figure out a way for all that data to dump and not break when you go to the apply now, which seems to be the hardest piece to get that thing all the way through. Like, if you're talking about multi-touch attribution, you can track it a little bit, right? But it does break. At least that's my view on it.
Yeah.
You guys agree, disagree?
I agree that it breaks. I agree that we can get maybe 2 fits of of what we need, right? Like,
Yeah.
but there were these other pieces of it. Maybe they started on one ILS and then or was the property website, but where do they come from? And we track those UTM links too. But I agree with you. It's when you go back and you look at, okay, my last 10 leases and where they all came from, we're getting a very small piece of the story. And I
Yeah.
think that is a use case for AI, right? To understand not necessarily just what links everyone clicked on to get there, but understand who these people, like, who are these people? Well, what kind of demographic is it? Where do they, where do they work? What's their income? What are they driving? Like, I mean, and really, and then how does that inform
Yeah.
marketing? If you know that all these people live in your building and they drive BMWs or something, there's something to
Or,
that.
like, I
Yeah.
would love to know, why did you start on apartments? Go to the website, go look at Google reviews. I'm just making up a really long one on purpose. Then go to Zillow and then make the decision after you hit Zillow or whatever. Was it because in that process you saw so many comps that it finally clicked on the one or two that you actually wanted to look? Was it because you wanted to verify the information? Was it because one ILS had better marketing? I don't know. I'm just making things up, but I would like, at some point, like to use all this technology to get more of the intent on where this is happening and how they're getting through that, whatever funnel you want to say. That's kind of where I'm at.
I don't know if I agree with you.
That doesn't
And
happen often.
I'm because I'm thinking about this and I know what you're saying, but also I'm thinking about other industries and how people make large purchase decisions. And so I'll give you an example. I've decided that I'm getting a new car in the next year. Fingers crossed. I'm putting it out in the universe. I'm putting it out. Okay. 2 years ago, I rented a Ford Expedition to take my team to site visits. Okay. I go, I freaking love this car. I love it. I've been thinking about it for 2 years, right? That was the start of my journey. I'm like 80% sure I'm getting a Ford Expedition in a year, fingers crossed. That was the start of my journey, was that I rented a car to take my team on site visits. Now, maybe I would have gotten to the Ford Expedition on my own because I want a large SUV. I want 3 rows. I wanna be able to like, there it fits within the bucket of things I want anyway, but, like, what I'm trying to say is I don't Google used to call it micro moments. I don't I don't think you can successfully capture all of those moments.
I think
I
that
just don't.
I think if we were to survey you though, and everyone around you, and only, and 10% of them responded and said, well, it's because I drove a rental car and that's inspired this decision, I think that's another data point. But you've got
I
to be
mean,
able to reach them and ask them in a way that they would want to respond and be competitive with all the noise that's around. But if you get enough answers, I think that's a really great data point and a great story. And I'm rooting for you.
That
I
is a
want you
great
to share
story.
that.
And you were gonna
thank
get
you,
that car.
please, like,
Well,
guys, like,
and
please let
and
me
I
get this
agree.
car.
Believe it or not, I agree with you. I don't want a bunch of micro data. What I was trying to get at is with AI and how powerful it is, you can take enough micro datas now, and AI can summarize and make it actual large data points because now you're able to reach these little intentions that you were never able to see before. And they can compile all these little intentions and say, renter A really thought they wanted to live in Uptown. I'm in Dallas. They wanted to live in Uptown. Then they started doing the research. Uptown wasn't as great as they originally thought. So then they ended up in downtown because they wanted to be able to walk to American Airlines or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And maybe AI can help us kind of understand that. Or, you know, a suburb that's hot all of a sudden, like Frisco or Plano, they thought they wanted to be on Uptown. Then they looked in those and they're like, well, pricing's great. It's near the highway. It's not that long to work. Like if you got enough of that data, it would help you in your other marketing. And that's where, and then is if we could also unbreak some of these things when we hit the apply now and all that, I think it
Wait,
would
where
be
the
great. But
Connect.
it's a
Let's
lot of
say
connecting the dots. And now we'll have to cut.
Chris
'Cause I
wants
think
to
we're-
unbreak it. I'm
yeah.
But Chris, I think you can but so I do understand what you're saying. I understand now. So then I think you can, but I think you can download data from a bunch of different places, put it into Claude and say, analyze this for me.
Right. But then you're also downloading company data, putting it into a third party. And I I'm just hoping that something happens in the technology that allows some of this to just kind of happen naturally within our systems or within the systems that we're already using without having to pull it all out and do something manual.
right. You want to log in your property management system and see where your leads came from and see your spend and see how
But have it be accurate. Yes.
and have it be accurate.
Have
It's
it be
actually not a
accurate.
tall order when you say it like that.
Then I don't know if the property I know what I do understand, and I agree with you now. But I think that
Full
data
circle.
lives going back to Andrea's point, like, that data lives in so many places, or it might live in places that don't exist yet.
Exist. Yep.
Yeah, I think it does have to be funneled into it has to be pulled from a bunch of different systems and then hope that the data is accurate enough that a story can
That's
be
where I hope
told.
AI goes, though, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like, that's my
yeah,
dream for it. I
yeah,
think today it's getting there, but my dream is for that to happen just to help us. I think it helps the renter too. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing this, and we're getting like close to time here, which is incredible. What a great conversation. This always happens. Of course, if you want to come back on for part two, we'd love to have you.
Let's
But
call part 2. Let's unbreak attribution.
unbreak attribution sounds great. Yeah.
You guys can just throw ideas at each other.
I really like that idea though of let's unbreak. I mean, that is one of our biggest challenges, I think, in the industry is attribution. And we're doing our part, but I think it's a really big opportunity there. I don't know how to solve it, but that's what part 2 is for. In the meantime, we're converting and we're adding revenue, but that's going to be my next thing with your help.
I want to ask one more question for me and anything else you have, obviously, before we wrap up here. Are you seeing, because I am hearing a lot now with all the data that people do have, is your data telling you this, that people now, instead of wanting to look at 5 or 6, they really are narrowing it down to 1 to 3 before they actually get on site, like because they have so much data? Is that matching what you're seeing, hearing? through your AI too, that they've done so much research that they kind of know where they want to be, and now they're just checking it to make sure it's legit.
Absolutely. They want to live on the top floor. They don't want stairs. They want to live. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 specific things. And then what Livesey will lift up and we'll go, okay, this unit is on the top floor. We'll schedule you here, right? But it is, or this, apartment. But it is, I think people are getting very specific about what their needs are and really narrowing down what they want to see on the tour. Yeah.
To my point that when people come in the door, we should be closing at crazy amounts because they are ready and lock and loaded. I have been making that argument all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. If they can walk in the building and know that they're going to be on the top floor, and they ask us too, down to utilities, right? Okay, what am I all in? And that fee transparency part is huge when they walk in the door, because if they know they can live on the top floor, they've got two pet fees, you're going to waive the application fee, and their utilities are about based on usage. They're that much more, depending on the building, that much more likely to lease. And that's what we're seeing people when we're scheduling tours and we have these long, high intent, in-depth conversations. They're able to see come in and see. Sometimes they're not even touring. Sometimes they're just applying because they know everything. But we're seeing such a high conversion because they're just walking in to make sure. It's just another box they're checking. So definitely think they're coming in with more data.
Amazing.
I don't have any more questions. This was an awesome conversation. Anything else that we should know about Livesey? I did you tell me when we talked before, is Livesey a pay per lease pricing model? Am I remembering that properly?
Yeah, we have a subscription that's, I think manageable, and then we charge pay per lease.
Okay. So that's unique too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intentional because we do perform, right? And we want to de-risk it. I built this to de-risk it for partners because I know how hard it is to roll out new technology.
Yeah.
So I made it very easy. Like, let us in the door. You can integrate. We're SOC 2 compliant, so your data is safe, and then we'll charge on a pay per lease, and that's been, I think, helpful in terms of market acquisition. So, and we can stand by our service.
Yeah, you're right. It's safe. It's a low barrier to entry. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know. We had such a wide ranging conversation. I'm like, I don't even know how to wrap it into a nice little bow. It was wonderful.
It was great. I really appreciate the time, the thoughtful questions, and I'm excited. Like, I mean, I haven't spent, I think about the present a lot because, there's a lot to do, but I'm excited. But I think if we all get together and keep talking about this, we might be able to unbreak some
We
things.
solve the world's problems here for multifamily. Like, let's
The
all
world's
besides
family problems, maybe not, let's start there.
let's just start multifamily, please. Let's not. Yeah, let's go there.
Unbreak
This is
all
great. Thank you
things.
so much.
Yeah, congratulations on your almost 1 year anniversary. Congratulations on the wonderful company that you've built. We can't wait to see how you continue to grow. And thank you again for your time. And everyone, find Andrea on LinkedIn or on their website or wherever, but definitely worth checking out. Thank you to Carlos, of course, for cutting out all the things that happen when we're recording. Chris, thank you as always. Thank you to Flamingo, our sponsor. And until next time, this has been the Apartment Department.